and the things they make you do. But suddenly, they don't have to make you do those things anymore. You do them because you want to. And then it's too late, because you're past all decency.
Shut up.
You're afraid.
But once again, you're talking about taking an oath and being converted into a witch or a warlock. And what was one of the code names that I had said in Beneath the Surface of one of these converted people class? That would be witch and warlock. So, you know, it was back then. It was happening back then. And you could tell that it's the Illuminati because as soon as this guy joins, you know, all of a sudden his quote-unquote luck starts to change. You know, he's got the inside scoop on investments and, you know, this and that. It's very obvious. And they refer to, you know, him losing his soul, and they make bare mention of him having to give up his soul for this. And so, you know, it's just another example of them doing the very same thing that they do today, except that's how they used to do it back then. A second movie that's kind of got, you know, the Illuminati, but it's not depicting the Illuminati, but it makes reference in an interesting way. It's called Beat the Devil, and despite the name, it's nothing supernatural actually happens in it. It's typical Humphrey Bogart. It's a typical Humphrey Bogart movie. You know, there's nothing supernatural. There's actually no mention of the devil himself or nothing like that. They do in the movie though. They drop hints that were very common back then because they were pretty subtle. So she, you know, the one of the ladies in the movie says, you know, I'm Shiva, or you need somebody like the Queen of Shiva, and that I'm a witch.
You know, I've changed my mind about your being an evil doctor. You're off to keep a rendezvous someplace in Africa sacred to the tribesmen. You're going to found a new empire and make yourself master of the riches of the world. But you need a beautiful blonde queen to impress the natives as the incarnation of the Queen of Sheba. One more.
That's right, baby.
I'll help you, Billy. I can, too. I'm something of a witch. My old Spanish nurse said I could have been a professional.
And this is how they used to drop hints back in those days and give everybody, you know, reference points, you know, because really the movie had nothing to do with witches and that kind of stuff and the goddess of Shiva or the wife or whatever. I mean, it was completely, they were out of place, out of context relative to where those comments happened. And there's another reference to there's a reference to the Illuminati in another place where it's completely out of context.
Take the drink, but won't join you in the toast. Glass of Irish. Women. Hitler had the right idea. Keep them in their place. Kleine Kinderkirchen, babies in the kitchen. Say what you want to about Hitler, he had his points.
Come. Look here.
This generation's had its chance. Hitler, Mussolini, those were the men. Now is the age of the barbarians. The world's going up in smoke. I say, let it come, get it over with.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like another year or so of worry.
Worry? Just 1 minute, laddies. I've just 2 or 3 words to say to you, laddies, and that's don't worry. Don't ever worry. I'm in a position to know secret information. The Rosicrucians, the Great White Brotherhood, the high secret orders. But you've no faith. You must have faith. Faith and power, secret power. Men who guard the trust from the deepest insides of the whatchamacallit. Mystic rulers, all one club, chained together by one purpose, one idea. Mankind's champions. Follow me, Billy?
Oh, why, of course.
This generation's had its chance. Hitler, Mussolini.
I can't stand here and permit you...
Are you interrupting me?
Mussolini, Hitler, and now Peterson.
A great man, a great loss.
I'm going upstairs and reading my Bible.
The movie is full of this, you know, Hitler worship, you know, whatever. It's kind of got this Hitler worship angle, but that was an obvious reference to the Illuminati, and they've been doing this for a while, you know, this secret societies, and I mean that was pretty obvious right there. Another example of what I think was predictive programming were the many flying saucer movies of the 50s and 60s. You know, the 50s and 60s experienced a rash of UFO sightings and an upsurge, a creation, if you will, of interest in UFOs. Now, this was not a subject that the government came clean about then and till this day. So obviously it's a very serious matter to them about not coming clean. And so they've, I think that a lot of the movies back then were made deliberately bad to discredit the entire subject before it even gets started. Because when you watch some of these movies, it's hard to imagine them leaving such plot holes. I mean, some of these movies are so silly that you would almost get the impression that if it didn't hurt their bank account, their wallet, the movie's production value, you would think that they did it on purpose because it was so bad and it was so avoidable.
How long have you been here?
Since the beginning of your experiments in nuclear fission.
What have you got to do with that?
We are accumulating the energy released with each of your atomic explosions. One moment.
Pizza's here. You know, it's this the silliness in these movies is so avoidable that it really begs the question, were they trying to discredit the entire subjects of UFOs? Because, I mean, you know, in 1952, you had the UFOs flying over the White House and, you know, Air Force scrambling jets, and meanwhile telling the people, oh, there's nothing there, there's, you know, nothing going on, and people are watching UFOs flying over the White House and, you know, flying over Washington, D.C., and then the aircraft, the Air Force jets would come up and go up and try to intercept, and they would lose track of the UFOs would disappear, and then when the people asked, well, what's going on? Nothing to see here, nothing's going on, you know. And it was, I think that a lot of these stupid movies were deliberately made that way so that, you know, you can relegate. It's a good way of making sure that serious people don't talk about UFOs, that it's not a serious subject. Well, what do? You discredit it. You relegate the entire topic to horrible, cheesy movies and comic books. And as for that particular incident in Washington, D.C. in 1952, the summer of 1952, that particular incident naturally ends up in a comic book, along with a lot of others. It's just one more angle that I think that they were pushing in order to program us ahead of time, because they knew that in the subconscious we were thirsting for this information, and that's a very deep question. You know, are you alone? And if you're dealing with a government that insists on lying about that subject, then I wouldn't put it past them to think that they would deliberately do stuff like this to discredit it and make sure that, you know, it's a topic only discussed by comic book reading teenagers and, you know, teenagers who like bad movies, and that serious people still don't discuss it. And it just seemed like an excellent angle for the time. You know, another form of predictive programming that happened in the early days of film is how black people were depicted. You know, they obviously were like told ahead of time to act like really immature and childish and confused. You know, it's these, you know, the black person will walk into a room full of sophisticates who are like, you know, hey, darling, your dinner party was fabulous. And then, you know, they go on with, yes, master, sir, and, you know, and it's interesting to think about what they were told before each scene, you know, like, all right, we're going to need you to act really dumb, all right? Now, we know you're aware, but you're going to have to act like everything astounds you and just, wow, you're baffled by the entire world, you know, and, you know, cut, you know, you're giving me bug-eyed, but you're not giving me pot of coffee bug-eyed. And that's what I'm looking for. The alien guy, you know, do what the alien guy does. Now, he does it right.
A shot of that. If anyone should say I've been in here